March 30th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the Thinkorswim platform, 2000 tick chart. So this is what the chart looked like today. In the pre-market, just like yesterday, it rallied pretty hard. Then on the open, it looked like it just kind of moved sideways. And then there was a slight sell-off after the first hour that lasted a good 3 hours. And then there was a slow grind of a rally, and then kind of rallied into the close. This is how I drew the charts today. Here are my trades. I took a total of 5 trades. 1 was a winner, 3 were losers, and then there was a break-even trade where I kind of got out right where I got in. I'll describe that one in a bit. Today, yesterday, and pretty much this whole week, the market has been pretty choppy, and the volatility has been, volume and volatility were kind of low. So that made it hard to trade because it seems like a lot of the movement happened in the pre-market, especially today and yesterday. So I didn't see that many setups, and they were just hard to find good, clean, safe entries. Now today, I'll admit, there are a couple of trades over here that weren't the best, and I took them prematurely, and I got punished for it. So we'll take a look at those in a bit. I also couldn't find a really good, clean trading range because this is the high of this trading range and the low. And I just also want to point out that you don't have to watch this entire video. Just go down to the descriptions and you can see where the good, the bad, and the ugly of where I saw setups or where I think a setup might have been, and as well as where I took my trade. So going back, I couldn't find really any good, clean trading ranges except for maybe in the beginning. This is where I had one trading range. And then this early in the pre-market, I drew this and this, but these actually weren't all that important as the high and the low in the pre-market. And then I did see some channels, which I drew in, but overall, price action was kind of slow today. I didn't see as many good setups, which kind of has been the theme for the entire week, because this has been a pretty challenging week to try to find good, safe entries. Now, tomorrow being the last day of the month, as well as the last day of the first quarter, they all happen to land tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot more volume, so hopefully there'll be more opportunities to find good setups, or at least just have more trades available. So it shouldn't take too long because I didn't have that many setups that I found. So the pre-market, prices rallied, and then they went into this consolidation, which I drew. And when on the open, it just kind of stayed in this consolidation. Prices continued moving up. And this is where I kind of saw the first potential setup. So this is clearly a trading range at this point because it kind of touched down here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And at the top, it kind of touched 1, 2, 3, confirming pretty well. So when it broke out here, I thought this is potentially a fail breakout. I saw this as a fail breakout as well as a second entry short because it's a new low here. First entry short right here because at this candle right here, this red one broke below this one. So that is a first entry short. Then it comes up and I'm thinking there's a second entry short potentially setting up plus a potential fail breakout because this is the trading range that I'm working with. Kind of zoom in or just make it look a little bit bigger. Turns out it would have worked for a scalp, but I didn't take that trade. Because the main reason is I thought it was kind of counter trend to the main price action. And if this kind of setup actually it broke out below here and looked like it was coming back in, I'd be more inclined to take that trade just because it would be coinciding with the bullish momentum. But here it's kind of breaking out, coming back down. Granted, most breakouts fail, so this one's more likely going to come in, but I wasn't too sure and I just was not confident enough to take that trade yet. And then prices continue moving lower. This is where I take my first trade. So I see a new high here. First entry long right here when it broke above this candle. And then this is setting up for second entry long. So when I saw this candle form, I thought, okay, it's potential second entry long, fail breakout, enough room to the EMA, enough room to this potential descending trend line. So I entered. It looked like it was going to work. And then I got stopped out on this candle. So that's the first trade. I thought it was a pretty strong signal bar as well, but it ends up that this trade didn't work. I don't know if I read the chart correctly, but after looking at it and thinking about it throughout the day, I'm just wondering maybe this fail breakout should have happened more quickly instead of this consolidation where it was kind of getting stuffed at this line here, but it kept making lower lows. So taking long here, that's one of the takeaways I'm thinking is probably it wasn't as safe or as clean a setup, even though there's a good signal bar. It was kind of like trending down in this localized area, even though I had to overshoot here. I think that's probably the key that would have told me if I knew about it or thought about it a little longer, would have told me maybe I should skip this trade. But at the time I just saw this candle, I thought it was good enough to take a trade. Prices continue moving lower, kind of bottoms out here. And when it bottoms out here, I end up kind of drawing this support just because it looked like there's a potential triple test right here. It's not a best clean triple test, but it is kind of touching once, touching twice, touching three times. So it is a triple test, but it doesn't give me enough confidence to take a trade because even then this signal bar is kind of iffy and I just kind of left it alone. But I did notice that I drew this just to kind of see if it would be come into play later. Prices continue moving up, kind of goes down and chops sideways back into this trading range. So it kind of confirms this here, comes down, confirms the bottom here, which is good because this is what I had established early on. Gives me a little more confidence the trading range is working. But as prices are unfolding, I notice it's making lower highs and the lower lows, even though they're kind of staying. So it looks like it's almost like it's creating a wedge. And then it finally breaks up here and it comes back down. But I didn't see any good setups for me to take. I did see potentially this is a new high, first entry long, and then it comes down right here, potentially a second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar, and there is enough room to EMA, but it's already outside this trading range to consider it a failed breakout, because this is probably a failed breakout. Failed breakout, then it pulls back and it continues back down. So I didn't see anything I liked right there. I did see this as a potential new low, first entry short, second entry short. And I thought, okay, this is a pretty, reasonable signal bar. It closed below the EMA and it breaks this shortened trend channel, which is this guy. So this is a kind of a shortened trend channel. It overshot, it broke out, it went outside, it came back to the other side, it tried to go higher once, it tried to go higher a second time. Now I don't have this trend channel drawn yet, so I can't count on it to act as a key entry point, but I just saw this. I thought maybe there's a trade there, but I just didn't feel it was good enough, even though I thought if this had closed a lot lower, maybe I would have taken it because there's enough room to get back to this localized bottom. But everything just kind of told me to stay away. And that's kind of a feeling I should have kept throughout because today was pretty choppy. And you'll see later, I took a couple of trades that weren't very good or very clean. So prices continue moving up. There, it looks like EMA is holding, is coming back down. It's kind of forming the second trading range now, which I drew here because when it touched two times, I just set this up hoping for a third confirmation. And then I just drew these two here. I drew the top to have these two touch here. So this looks like it's a trading range, but I'll feel more confident if I get a third touch. And I get my third touch here, but it's looking like it's stalling out. So here I do see like a new high here. It's a first entry long and a second entry long. Now the second entry long, it's bouncing right off this EMA. And I do draw this. Well, I already had this drawn, but it confirmed like two more times. So I thought this is potentially a failed second entry long. I'm already at the bottom though, and I considered it where I drew my trend line, trading range to have broke out and then, closed inside. So I didn't take the trade right away. I waited, I watched that form. And then when I saw this form and I noticed it didn't quite make it up to the EMA, I'll admit that this particular trade is a little aggressive because I did see that the EMA is holding the prices down and is getting rejected off this trend line, which had already been, confirmed three times. So I thought, okay, this isn't the best signal bar. I took it on a kind of a right down here, which is, I'll admit, rather risky. And it ends up kind of it ends up working, kind of blasting through. But I'll admit, because when it came back, I didn't have super confidence in it yet. Because when it came back here, it gave me a pause. I was wondering, should I just get out, break even? And then it ends up working pretty well. And I was able to get a runner off of it. But I will say that this setup isn't the best. It isn't the best. It's kind of ugly, not the cleanest. So in hindsight, I probably should have just let this one go, even though it worked. And prices continue moving down. It's confirming this trend channel now, which is good, reassuring. but now it's breaking up. So I'm wondering if it's going to pull back in because it's the first break of this EMA as well as the channel. It kind of moves along. I think I see this as a trading range because it touches a couple times. I couldn't quite get it to touch really well down here. So at one time I thought maybe it's actually down here. So price continue moving. It then just breaks through. So it didn't really give me warm fuzzy that this is a good trading range because I'm wondering if it's going to actually come back in. But the overall bias is going down. Breaks out, continues down, makes a new low down here. I see potentially no first entry short because this isn't clean yet. You could say there's maybe a hidden one, but I want to look for a clean one. So I did see a first entry short up here, but it's already moved so far away. And as prices continue moving up, you can consider this a second entry short. But this doesn't really tell you much because at one time it did have the channel drawn like this. And I thought, okay, if that is what the channel looks like, then this is the first break and wants to test this extreme. So even though this is technically a second entry short right here, because it comes up, here's the first entry short and then the second entry short, I didn't feel confident taking a short entry right into this EMA. But let me just delete this because I don't like it. Reason being is I found the channel kind of fit better up here. Prices continue moving up. It breaks out the first time. It tries to move up once, tries to move up the second time. So I saw a potential second entry long here, but I don't like this setup. So I said, what I need to do to feel better about a second entry long to see if this is going to go and test here is to find a higher low. And I find my higher low, well, I thought I found my higher low right here. So this is actually my third trade of the day, which is not the best trade because what happened was when this second entry long formed, I said, I'm looking for a higher low. I don't get it because these are all still higher, but there isn't a new low made. But when this candle formed, it looked like it was going to break below this one. And in my mind, I justify this entry as, okay, there's been no clean breaks to create a failed second entry long. So I know it's first entry long, second entry long. Nothing's telling me it's a failure yet. It went up. I'm already kind of bullish biased. And I thought this is almost touching. So I thought this is good enough. I take the entry and I end up getting burned on it because when I took this entry, I didn't get burned. I actually got out break even. When I took this entry, I was looking for 2 points and I just didn't get 2 points yet. I think it was a couple ticks shy. But if I only took a 1 point entry, it would have failed me. I would have gotten it. But I wanted to get a 2 point entry, and this trading range didn't exist yet. I didn't have this drawn. So I got taken out because what I did was I started second guessing my trade. So instead of having my stop down here, I just moved it up to break even. So I ended up getting stopped out break even. Then when this candle formed, this is where I saw my second entry. Excuse me. When this candle formed, this is where I was still thinking bullish, which I shouldn't have because I just got break even here. I said first entry long, second entry long. There's no failed second entry long. And technically it would be a failed second entry long, but I said this is my higher low, which is not the best thing to interpret because in the moment I was stopped out here on this guy. I was stopped out on this candle and I immediately jumped right back in on that candle. And so when I jumped in, immediately I get flashed down. I'll just show you the trades here. So this is what happened for a little more clarification. I saw, okay, at 40.76, I saw this consolidation. This is at 40.76 even, and I took it at 1 tick higher because I saw these guys are bumping up. It's going to move. There's no second entry confirmation, like a second entry long with a higher low. Remember, I just thought this is good enough to touch. I took an entry right here. It goes up. It doesn't fill me because my profit target was 2 points. So I stopped short. And all the while I was second guessing this trade, I moved my stop to break even. And so I get stopped out right here. Well, pretty close to break even, a little bit less. But then when I saw this close, I said, oh, here's my higher low, which is incorrect because now it's actually a second entry short potentially because it's potentially a first entry short, second entry short. There's 2 clean legs that already tried to move up to try to test this high. And it's coming back down. But I took a long here, and immediately I get stopped out right here. it kind of just skirts. I skirt danger because I think I have my stop down here, 40.73.25. Actually, I'm actually I don't know why I didn't get stopped out here, but I apparently got stopped out here. I think there's something a little glitch, but I should have gotten stopped out here. So that was a foolish interpretation in the moment because I got stopped out and I immediately wanted to believe that was right and just re-entered the trade. So then prices continue moving up, and this is where I take my last and final trade. I saw new low, first entry short, second entry short right here when it breaks below this guy. And I said, okay, obviously there's a second entry short, prices are going down. So I said, I'm going to enter this trade. But this isn't the best signal bar. Actually, this would be the signal bar, and this is the trigger. It did tick one tick below. And I said, okay, it's coming back into this trading range. So I'm going to go ahead and take this entry. And it just broke out of the shortened trend channel. So that should have given me a clue that this is the first breakout. It might want to come up and test this extreme. So that's exactly what happened. I enter here. I get filled. It fakes me out. It makes me think it's going to come back in. EMA is coming up, and then it stops me out on this candle. Actually, this one tick above. So kind of a lesson learned. It's also late in the day. There was no real good reason to take this, and I didn't review this trade in larger context because now it's clearly bullish move going up. So to take this trade is actually counter trend on a pretty terrible looking signal bar. I just first break of this channel, I should have been careful thinking it should have gone up. So this is just a not well thought out, well planned trade. So that's how I got my third loss. So one loss, two loss, break even, green, and then a loss. So three losses, one win, one break even. End up red for the day. So that's kind of how I saw the chart today. And then just to wrap things up, it kind of just moved toward the end of the day, closeout. But this is a pretty slow paced day. So knowing that and seeing I keep track of where the volume is at certain times of day and just compare it to what usually happens. And this was definitely a slow day. So I should have known, just like yesterday, the day before, just to be extra cautious. So ideally tomorrow will be a little more exciting. Exciting meaning there'll be more price action just because, as I said, it's the end of the month, also the end of the quarter. And usually that's when a lot of traders will be shifting their options around, or a lot of companies, if they end their quarter in March, they probably want to have their, hedge funds and whatnot want to have their numbers looking and reflecting nicely. Probably want to sell some losers or take some profits or whatnot. So I imagine there'll be a lot of volatility, a lot of volume tomorrow. So that's how I saw it today. Not the best day for me. So hopefully that was helpful.